Welcome to tonight's cross-cultural project community forum. It is so exciting to see you all here. Thank you very much for joining us. And as we are talking, please feel free to and get some food. We appreciate the fact that you're here on your good arm. My name is Linda Whitehead, and I am the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for the City of Bellevue. Thank you. My family is here. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I really do appreciate it. Tonight I have 4 things that I would like to ask of you before I turn the mic over to Sarah. Number 1, please use your voice tonight. We want to hear from you. Your opinion counts, and it's very important to us. Number 2, please be quick to listen. We're here to listen to each other, and we seek to understand each other. Not to criticize each other, but to understand each other. Number 3, be a thoughtful thinker. By that I mean, I want you to engage your mind as well as your heart. So please be thoughtful as you think along with us tonight. And finally, number 4, engage your heart, caring for one another. Simply stated, see the value in each other. See the value in each person. And with that, I think we'll have a break. So thank you again for joining us, and I'll turn it over to Sarah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Whitehead, and welcome everyone again. Thank you so much for being here. We know there's a lot of other things you could be doing with your time tonight, so it really means a lot to us that you're choosing to be here with us. My name is Sarah Boyle, and I am part of the city's Diversity Advantage team and have the honor of working on this project and have had the opportunity to work with several of you so far as we prepare for this project. We're going to give you a little bit of background on this cross-cultural project so that you have all the information you need to start thinking about the feedback and input and ideas that you want to give us when we get to the next part of the agenda, which is going to be gathering ideas. While I give the project background, if you have questions come into your mind, please feel free to jot them down or remember them, because we will have a moment at the end of the presentation for questions. I'll just ask you to hold your questions until the very end, okay? Once we finish the project background, we get into the fun part of the night. I'm done speaking, and we turn the microphone to you to start telling us what are some of the ideas, hopes, dreams that you have for cross-cultural activities at Bellevue's Cross-Cultural Center Without Walls. We'll end with a 5 or 10 minutes of closing so you understand next steps, and hopefully we'll get you out of here right at 8 o'clock tonight. So quickly, let's figure out who is in the room with us tonight. So I mentioned I am part of the city's Diversity Advantage team. We lead the city's diversity, equity, and inclusion work, and I know I have several colleagues in the room with me. So we met Dr. Whitehead. We have Dr. Marcus Johnson over here. We have Eric Mercado over here, and I'm not sure, Justin Chan in the back. Am I missing anyone else? Have everyone? Okay, thank you. We also have someone named Milenko with us here tonight. Milenko, can you raise your hand? He's in the back, and he is a consultant that we've been working with on this project for the past 6 months or so, a Bellevue resident, and decades of experience exploring topics of arts and culture and community. I've had the pleasure of working with Milenko in the past, and we really are very lucky to have him here with us tonight. I may call him Milenko at times throughout tonight's presentation to help answer questions and keep us on track. So if you see Milenko come up, that is why. We have our convening group members. If you are a convening group member, could you stand up? Here they are. So our convening group members are folks from across the community who have been working with our team to make sure tonight's event is a success. They've been working as thought partners. They've been working as people doing outreach, making sure people know this event is going on. We have been so lucky to work with them. This is not a decision-making group. They really are there to be with us, to think through the steps and make sure that we're going about this in the most culturally competent way. So we will also be leaning on them throughout tonight to help us with this presentation. Okay, can I get by a show of hands? Who lives in Bellevue? Who is a resident of Bellevue? Wonderful, that's a good, I think 60% of the audience tonight. How about if you work in Bellevue? Great, welcome. I know several of you are gonna keep your hands up this entire time. What if you go to school in Bellevue or take classes in Bellevue? Yeah, I see a couple in the back. Great, welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. What if you volunteer in Bellevue or like to play and visit Bellevue? Oh, I think that's 100%. Okay, everyone gets an A+ for that one. Wonderful. So tonight what we're going to ask is if you have some sort of strong connection to this city, you live here, you work here, or you go to school here, we would love to gather your ideas and hear your input. If you are here as someone that's maybe passing through, doesn't know the community as well, isn't as connected here, we're so happy you're here. We'll ask you to be in more of an observer role tonight. But anyone that goes into any one of these categories, we really hope that you will lend your voice to us today so we can really collect your wisdom on this project. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Are we all ready? Yep. Perfect. So, Cross-Cultural Center Without Walls. That is what we are here to talk about tonight and to create together. Today's goal, when it gets down to it, is really to hear your ideas and your input about what kind of cross-cultural activities you would want to participate in. Our bigger goal, really, when we think long-term, is creating a Bellevue in the future in which everyone who lives here, works here, goes to the school here, feels that sense of belonging. That is the road we are on, and we really hope that these opportunities to relate to each other and intercultural exchanges is going to be a step getting us to that final goal of that sense of belonging in Bellevue. Whenever we talk about the Cross-Cultural Project, the first question we get is, what the heck is cross-cultural? What does that mean? It's not a term that we hear very often. Many of us are very familiar with cultural. We know what that means, and we hear that, and we can recognize it. But what is this new cross-cultural thing? And the problem is we haven't really done it yet, so we don't totally know. We're going to try our best to put some definitions to it, but this is going to evolve over time as we practice this more and get a sense of what does cross-cultural mean to us in Bellevue. But in its essence, we're talking about people coming together and collaborating and working together across different cultures and backgrounds. It's opportunities for people of 2 or more different cultures to come together and exchange ideas, traditions, and history, to learn from each other, to gain new perspectives, and to form those relationships and connections with people we might not have a lot of opportunities to connect with otherwise. Another question we get is, what's different about this? We have so many cultural activities in Bellevue. Why is this any different? And to answer that, we're going to ask you to go back in history with us for a little bit. Because when we think about the topic of diversity or difference in our society, we haven't always had such a positive relationship with diversity. There's very much a time in which diversity and difference was punished, right? That was not something we wanted in our communities. With time, we got to a point where we tolerated diversity. Even in my generation, I still grew up with the term, we tolerate difference. I tolerate olives on my pizza when I have to. I want to do more for the people in my community than tolerate them. I would say that today, in most parts of Bellevue, we've gotten to a place where we're actually celebrating diversity. It is difficult to go around the city, driving, walking, and not see the level of cultural diversity we have in our city. Events, festivals, art, it's all over the place. I think we can really strongly say we do this well. But what we're hoping that we can do in this project is push us a little farther, right? Evolve a little more past even celebrate into where we are coming together and learning from each other. What happens when we bring wisdom from all these different cultures together? What new kind of wisdom is created in the process? And that is the question we're hoping to answer tonight, and that we hope to continue to answer as we move forward with this cross-cultural project. So what could this actually look like? So when we think about putting these ideas to the test and creating cross-cultural activities, here's a few examples to think of, and many of these come from our convening group members, and actually some of these are inspired by events that are already happening in the city. So the first one, curries from across the world. I'm a cook, I'm an eater. One of the things that bugs me most is when people use the word curry to describe one kind of food. Because I'm like, there's Thai curry, and there's Indian curry, and there's African curry, and they're all so different. So imagine a cooking and eating workshop where you get to cook and interact and learn about curries from all over the world. Or imagine a documentary that one of our students makes about what it's like growing up in a family with parents who come from different cultures and have different child rearing and parenting practices. What does that look like to grow up in a family like that? Or maybe there's a performance where cultures are sharing different drumming traditions, and afterwards it's followed by a dialogue about the meaning of this drumming tradition in their culture. So these are just a couple of examples of what this could be, and my true hope is that tonight y'all figure out some even better, more creative ideas than this, so I think we can do even better. And you'll notice in all of these, the big difference is we're not just celebrating or highlighting the tradition of one culture, but it really is an opportunity for exchange and mutual learning across multiple cultures, so that all of us, when we go home, are walking away with some new knowledge and new perspectives. So why is this important? Why are we focusing on cross-cultural work when we have so many cultural options? And the reality is, I think many of you already know the answer to this question. Bellevue is so diverse, and it's getting more diverse every year. In the past 20 years, our community has changed drastically. The number of folks who were born in the country other than the US has increased from 25% to 42%. Folks who identify as a race other than white has nearly tripled from 21% to almost 60%. And families that speak a language other than English at home as their primary language has increased from 27% to 45%. Today we are in Odell Middle School, part of Bellevue School District, and in the district there are 103 different languages spoken across students and families there. That's an incredible level of diversity. We know that the rich diversity is out there. The question is, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to really get the gifts that those cultures all have to offer? And we really want to specify here, when we talk about culture, I know it's very easy to think about, ethnic culture, where you were born, what language you speak. And we know those are really important contributors to who we are as people and how we navigate the world. But there's really other parts of our identity as well that are very important to our culture as well. So we think about religion, your gender, your sexual identity, your age, what level of disability you may be living with, your geography, where do you live in the world? Me and my aunt, we are both white women, but she was raised in Florida and I was raised here, and we could not be more different, let me tell you. The family structure you lived in, right? Did you grow up in a nuclear family with 2 parents and 2.5 kids? Did you live in a family that had aunties and uncles and grandparents present? So all of these different kinds of culture and diversity are topics that we could explore together in this cross-cultural center without walls. So a little bit about how we actually got here. So some of you, this might be your first time hearing about the Cross-Cultural Center project. Some of you have been involved in this work since it started about 7 years ago. So for those of you who are new, we just quickly want to name that this has been an ongoing conversation in the city, and many people have been actually involved in this story in the years leading up to today. So back in 2016, there was a conversation happening in the community and with our city council that was really recognizing the growing diversity in the city and said, hey, this is an opportunity to really do something about this. So there was this conversation about creating a physical space where people could come to gather, to learn and share across cultures, and really have a center in the city where this cross-cultural exchange is happening. Over the next several years, the council directed a series of studies that was asking questions like, do we have space for this? Do we have existing buildings? What would it cost to build a center? What would happen in that center? If you are interested in reading many, many, many pages, these studies are public and are online, and we encourage you to go check them out. I am going to summarize it very, very quickly, and one of the biggest takeaways of these studies was they found that yes, after interviewing 450 residents, they found there really is a need and a desire for this kind of cross-cultural exchange in Bellevue. One of the other things they found, however, is there's not actually a lot of great examples in the region or the country of exactly what this looks like. So there was a little bit of, well, we know people want this, it looks really good on paper, it sounds good when we talk about it, but what would it actually look like in action? What does cross-cultural exchange look like, and how do we know it when we see it? So in 2022, the council directed basically a pilot project of this cross-cultural center. So we're not building the physical center today, but can we still explore what that cross-cultural exchange looks like? What does it look like to create these cross-cultural activities? So today, we are trying out the cross-cultural center without walls. And no, this is not a fully outside cross-cultural center, I promise. You will not need your umbrellas. This is, in its essence, a series of cross-cultural activities and events that are going to travel around different locations in the city. We have community centers, we have museums, we have schools, we have libraries, we have parks. We have a lot of different places that could potentially host these activities. And we're going to be inviting our community and community organizations to help us design those different programs and events that are traveling to locations across our community. I think the most important thing I'll say tonight is this. We are leading, or we are navigating this project with this value in our hearts. We want this to be community-led and city-supported. We have some really smart people at City Hall. We really do. And we know that the expertise to run and lead these cross-cultural programs lives in the community. It lives in our nonprofits. It lives in our neighborhood associations. So we really want to make sure that you, people that live and work and play in Bellevue, are the ones that are telling us what's most important, and in the end are actually creating and leading this work. We know that in order to do that, folks need resources, right? These really strong programs and events don't just pop out of nowhere. So on our side, the city is really here to provide that support. It's staff time support. It's helping find places to book these events. And eventually, it's also going to be financial support, in which we're going to invite our community organizations to submit proposals and ideas for cross-cultural activities that they would like to plan. And it's us providing the resources and funding they need to make that happen. So what do the next couple months look like? So today, we are here at the red arrow, Community Workshop number 1. And as I mentioned, the most important part of today is gathering your ideas and input about these cross-cultural activities that we hope to create. Once we do that today, we're going to have about a 4-week break. And in that 4 weeks, we're going to take all of your ideas back. Maybe it's 20, maybe it's 50 we generate today. We're going to work with our convening group members, and we're going to start to group those ideas into different themes, right? Different values we have, different ideas we have for these activities. On October 17th, we're going to invite you right back here into the same space. We're going to line up all the different ideas that you generated at this meeting. And together, we're going to start prioritizing what are the ones that matter to us most. Which are the ones that are most important? In the past, when I've done this process, you often generate 20, 30, 40, 50 ideas, and they're all good, but we can't always do them all in that first phase of work. So as a community, we're going to figure out, you know what, these ones are the ones we really want to make sure are prioritized in this pilot project. Then we'll have another about 6-week break in which we'll be meeting with our convening group and meeting with city staff to start working with ideas and see how we can bring them to life. And finally, in December, we're going to invite you back for our 3rd and final community workshop, in which we're actually going to invite folks that might want to play a hand in creating these programs and bringing them to life to come here, to gather, to start getting to know each other and seeing how can we actually collaborate across our organizations, across our cultures, to bring those ideas to life. Starting in winter of 2024, so I guess that's only in about 3 months, can you believe it? We will open a funding cycle in which we will invite organizations to propose ideas. And the hope is that we would actually have our cross-cultural programs, our pilot projects starting by spring of next year. So again, envision all these different rich events and activities traveling across the city to locations that hopefully you trust and feel at home in. After about a year of piloting out these different activities, testing them out, thank you, Marcus. That better? After about a year of piloting these activities, testing them out, see what works, we will go back to our city council and we will relay to them what we heard from you as far as this is what worked really well, here's what we want for next steps, and we'll make some recommendations to city council for how we'd like to move forward with this work. So in just a few minutes, I'm gonna stop talking, I promise, and we're gonna go to the part where we collect your ideas. I just want to reiterate really quick what's possible. Almost anything. There's so many different ways that we could embrace this work, whether it's art or food or community dialogues or talking about different cultural philosophies or histories. There's so many different ways to talk about culture, right? We already saw today that even just talking about a name is a way to talk about culture. Ultimately, we really want you to ask yourself the question, what do you want others to know about your culture that you think would be a powerful addition to our Bellevue community? And what do you want to learn from others? That's the question that we're hoping to explore in these cross-cultural activities. And again, what's that wisdom that we can find when we bring these different cultures and traditions together? Well, almost anything is possible. We do have a couple of requirements, right? So this is the cross-cultural project. So as you're thinking of your ideas and brainstorming, we're going to make sure that we're talking about cross-cultural ideas, right? So 2 or more cultures coming together in some way or form to exchange ideas or traditions. These programs must use existing spaces. So we're not building a new space right now, but they could be public and private spaces. These events and activities could be one-offs, they could be series of events, but they must fit within that 1-year pilot. And then finally, any of these ideas must be open and accessible to our community, right? So we want folks across Bellevue able to access these really powerful programs and events.